All right. Welcome back, everybody, to the uPOW podcast, your source of motivation, information, and inspiration. Today, we have a very special podcast with one of our founders, Shawn Goodwin. I'm really excited to get this podcast out there. I know this is season 2. We had some technical difficulties with season 1, but we are very excited to get out this founders podcast with Shawn. All right, Shawn, how are you doing today? How are you feeling?
I'm doing all right, man. On this, it's cold in Indiana today.
It is cold.
It's kind of bummer. Like I got up this morning and it was like 25. I'm going to the gym. I was like, oh,
dude, it was weird. It's kind of funny because it's April 1st, so April Fools, and it was snowing, and it's like winter's like, oh, it's not over.
Yeah, psych.
It's not. It's not.
I feel like Indiana's always good for like it warms up, everybody's excited, start busting out the shorts, and then it's like, nope, one more week of winter, super, super cold. I think that's kind of where we're at. It's like second winter.
Yeah, I feel that. Well, I mean, you want to just dive into it and kick this bad boy off?
Yeah, bring it on, man. You want me to just do a little quick intro here?
Yeah, let's get a quick intro, and I'll ask some good questions.
All right, sounds good. So like Austin said, I am kind of the other half of the founders. My name is Shawn Goodwin, BLS, MS, soon to be MBA. Been working on schooling and degrees and certifications for, God, was it 2021? So I'm in year 11. So yeah, I've been taking college courses since 2000. Since actually summer of 2010. I started like a week after high school finished, so I didn't even get a summer after senior year. I just went straight into school. Actually went into college, the groups program at Indiana University. Groups is for like low income or first generation college students. I obviously am both. So I'm from inner city Indianapolis. I went to Decatur Central High School. I feel like I keep saying a lot. It's driving me nuts here, but how do you talk about yourself, right? Like it's the weirdest thing
it's
ever.
Tough.
But yeah, Decatur, and then went to IU, had no idea what I was doing. So freshman year, all I did was work out and go to class. And then sophomore year, I met this knucklehead. We actually were lucky enough to room together, just totally random. And when I first got there, everyone was like, oh man, like you're really big, you're really muscular, blah, blah, blah. But have you seen Austin? And I'm like, that's my roommate. I hadn't actually met you at the time, but I was like, yeah, I know Austin. Like thinking in my head, like, yo, how fucking big is this kid, man? Like, so then I met you and I was like, oh, okay, cool. Like he works out too. Like this is going to be great. And then we ended up like literally just being best friends from like the second week or whatever, when I gave you that big speech about how like, look, kid, you're going to want to have a good time in college and not study all the time. And it was a horrible influence on all of our being older as well. I had access to certain things that they did not. So I'm not going to actually go into that in any detail with that. Yeah. But let's just say we all had a great time when we lived in the dorms. We worked in the gym there at Briscoe too. So that was fun. What else? Yeah. Ended up finishing with a Bachelor of Liberal Studies in Social and Historical Sciences with minors, in history, public health, and math. So had no freaking idea what I was doing in undergrad. And then I met Mike Willett, actually at the Iron Pit. Dr. Willett is, he'll be on the show eventually and everything else, but he is the associate chair of the kinesiology department for the School of Public Health. At the time, it was the School of Health, Physical Education, and Recreation, Hyper. And he basically got me into grad school. I mean, I don't want to say that I was a horrible student, but your boy had a solid 2.1. Got into grad school where you had to have like a 3.5. And then I decided I wanted to get my act together and really study hard and do the stuff I wanted to do. And I actually started in the applied sports science program because I wanted to go into coaching and training and everything else, because I'd been bodybuilding for a long time at that point. I'd already trained quite a few people, Trey that works with us, or, Matt Szymanski or David West, or, you, or, a ton of people. And then from there, I met Dr. Joel Steger, who if you know anything about physiology, you know, he's one of the goats of physiology. So if you ever heard like chocolate milk after a workout is good for athletes, or compression leggings, or anything to do with swimming and O2 saturation or hypoxia or anything, that's all him. He did all that original research for the got milk stuff for chocolate milk. He did all that. And when I took one of his classes, I took like a 600 level respiratory physiology course. And it was literally the hardest thing I'd ever done in my entire life. And after the class, I was like, hey, like an undergrad professor told me, find the best professors, take their classes. It doesn't matter what subject they are. You're going to learn the most from those professors who know the most and who treat you the best. And so I was like, hey, I know your class just kicked my ass, but you know, I'm hungry for more. What are you teaching next semester? And Steger got back to me and was like, hey, you know, love the enthusiasm, blah, blah, blah. Like, do you have a laptop? Do you have a workspace? Do you have this? Do you have that? And I'm teaching these two classes. So I took both those classes, and he actually ended up giving me a workspace. Like, I have my own desk in the School of Public Health.
Oh, wow.
Like study for classes. And then he put me on teaching courses and everything else. And he actually introduced me to Larry Rink, who would then become basically the guy responsible for everything I am now. And that my first internship was in his hospital that he owned. He had like 75 doctors that worked for him because he owned Premier Healthcare here in Bloomington, Indiana. And then I did an internship and I worked for free for him while working 3 other jobs. I was actually driving a bus for the school. I was personal training and I was still teaching courses, and I worked for him for free. And then Lauren at the time, I think, was working 2 or 3 jobs because I think she was working for a healthcare provider here in town. She was like, I can't remember what her other thing was. She had one other thing, and then she was also working in the gym and doing like training sessions too. So between the two of us, we had 7 jobs. So we never saw each other for this period of my life. But ended up finishing that out. I was going to take a job in Indianapolis, move back home, and Dr. Rink said, if you could do one more and burn the boat on a regular job, would you be willing to stay on and keep working as an intern? I was like, well, you know, what's it about? And it was like, I remember it was a couple days before Christmas, and I think it was 2016, 2017, Christmas 2016. Yeah, because I ended up working the whole next year, and then I got hired in 2018. But he literally made me sign an NDA, and then he slid the blueprints to the south end zone of Memorial Stadium to me and said, if you could build the best sports science center in the world from the ground up, what would you do? And from there, wow, I built the Center for Elite Athlete Development, which I'm director of for Indiana University. And the rest is kind of history. I'm going into my 4th season with the Hoosiers and super excited to see where we go. Last year was obviously a little crazy with COVID and that world of things, but we got through it, and we actually saved the university quite a bit of money with the in-house testing that we were able to do. And yeah, just continuing to roll into next season. You know, just excited for what the future holds whenever we get quote unquote kind of back to normal. And that's kind of a 30,000 foot view of a story that I saved you guys a lot of the struggles of.
Well, I mean, like, how does it, I mean, I'm just kind of curious, how does it differ from like the normal versus COVID era, especially for athletes? Yeah.
So a lot of I got some feedback from one of our watchers, and they told me that I say too much. And so I'm really, really trying to be conscious of that. So I apologize to everybody that's maybe made a drinking game. How many times can Shawn say, you'll die. Okay. Don't play that game.
I think I'm playing.
But so with the COVID year, so I was there the day, if you Google it, the day the sports world stopped. I was at work, and it was like every couple hours we got more and more of an update. And it was like, this sport's been canceled. This sport's been canceled. This sport's been canceled. Oh, they're canceling all sports. Oh, they're, you know, it's just games they can still practice. Oh, now they can't practice. Oh, now they can't be in the facilities. We're sending them home. Mm-hmm. So like I was there when all of that stuff shut down, and it was like it was so surreal because like I just walked out of my office and I was like looking around the lab, and Isaac, who is my counterpart at work, he's director of nutrition. He was in there, and I kind of looked at him, and he like just put his hands up. He's like, I don't know, dude, this is crazy. Like, I don't know what this is. And we walked out in the hallway, and there was like, I won't tell you what teams they were, but there were probably about 30 athletes sitting in the hallway, and they were all just crying because they were seniors. And like that was their final year. So they were gearing up for their final competitive season. And it was just like that day I will remember for the rest of my life for sure. And so taking that day and like the memory of that day and being like, you know what, we have to make this better. We have to do this right. We have to get the kids back, and we have to make sure that they are able to compete and practice and live as normal as they possibly can. So what do we have to do that? Okay, well, we established different boards for return to play committees. We established different protocols and different rules. And we built an MRI lab that was actually, we repurposed the MRI that was used for brain studies and neurosciences to do cardiac MRIs because the Big Ten mandate for cardiac MRI. And we sort of said, you know, we have Dr. Rink, because the Center for Elite Athlete Development at Indiana University, where I run, is a part of the greater Dr. Lawrence D. Rink Center for Sports Medicine Technology. And so Dr. Rink is an incredible cardiologist. I mean, he's the best in the world when it comes to sport cardiology, bar none. And so we were like, well, you know, we need to lead the charge when it comes to this stuff, because they found that COVID interacts with the athlete heart, and it actually can cause damage in some cases, and it causes inflammation, which can cause sudden cardiac death. And it's like, we can't have the kids out there practicing and playing and competing and running the risk of collapsing. I mean, we saw that at is it Florida State is the Gators? No, the Seminoles. Whatever the Gators are. Sorry, I'm ignorant to non-Big Ten schools right now.
Florida.
There you go.
Florida Gators.
Florida Gators. Yeah. So they had a basketball player collapse on the court. It was determined he had some cardiac issues. He basically went into a sudden cardiac arrest. And so we're like, that's not happening in Indiana. And so we put all these protocols in place and all these practices, and, you know, we led the charge, and it was a long, arduous process to get everyone cleared. But for the most part, I mean, everyone got back to practicing once, because the Big Ten, if you remember, we said, no, we're not doing football. We shut it down. Mm-hmm. And then the SEC and Pac-12 and the other conferences said, you know, we're going to march forward. And then they started seeing lower incidents if they didn't have fans. They did daily testing. They did X, Y, and Z. And so we adopted some of those protocols, got everyone back to playing. And then we were just like, we did what they did, like times 1,000. Like they were testing like once a week. We tested like twice a day. Like it was absurd how many antigen tests and that was the kids, that was the staff, anyone who was determined to be in close contact to a team. Like I remember that there were periods where I was coming in and testing every day, whether I had to be there or not. It was like, you have to be tested every single day or you're not eligible to be with the team. Wow. And it's like, okay, cool. We'll get it done, you know? Man,
it's probably gonna feel weird just like where you are like now compared to where you were before and while you're in it. Because I'm sure that there was this like fight or flight, you know, survival, like we got to make it, we got to be here, we got to still play, we still got to take care of these people, and we still got to make them safe. Mm-hmm. So it's like, I don't know, you just kind of flip a switch and you make it happen, which is not easy to do at all, because I'm sure you got burnout in some ways. I'm sure a lot of athletes, a lot of different people that were a part of the organization got burnout, because it's just it takes a lot. It takes a lot to be on all the time, mm-hmm. too. It's a big Ten.
I will say, you know, a credit to our athletes and a credit to the other athletes that I've heard about in the Big Ten. I mean, I don't think anyone got upset the whole process. Like whether you were sitting for a month waiting to get the results back of your MRI and you couldn't get in to see me because I was just overloaded with testing and you had to wait an extra week. Like, I don't think we really got any complaints. Yeah. So it's like, that just shows, you know, the character of the, you know, I call them the kids, but the character of the kids that we have. And, you know, just understanding like this is a dangerous situation we're in, you know, and we all have to kind of pull together and make sure that we do everything we can.
Yeah. Play your part. That's tough too. It's a big team thing and a lot of trust and a lot of other people. Yeah. I think that's good. Well, let me flip it to wellness and talk about like your pursuit of wellness and dive into this. So tell me, where did this all start and how did it start?
Oh, man, that broad ass question. There's
I can get specific if you want me to.
No. I'm with it. I'm just thinking in my mind, you know, it's for me, it's one of those things where I grew up very humble. And, you know, it's one of those things like I'll always give my parents credit because like my mom was 17 when she had me. And my dad, I think, was only 19. So, me, my dad, and my grandpa are around about 20, 40, 60. So me at 30 without having a kid, I'm the one who's actively messing up everyone's universe.
You're messing up the whole family line. They're like, wait a minute, Shawn.
Yeah. Well, luckily my youngest brother is 21. He's getting married actually this month in 23 days. So hopefully he can take up that torch and they can stop asking me every single Thanksgiving.
I'm sure everybody's trying to push him out too. It's like, all right, you got to have a kid. Like if Shawn's not doing it, next in
line.
line.
Down the line. It went from like me to like Scott. No, okay, Shane, you're off the bench, buddy. Got to tell you,
you're the starter now. Come on, let's go.
I was flat out like, no, I'm not doing it. So we grew up very humble, and and my parents did everything they could. I remember we always had really good Christmases. Like some people say, like they got up on Christmas, they didn't have shit under the tree. Like I was fortunate enough to not experience that. We had all the other problems. I grew up in a house that sometimes didn't have power, didn't have heat, didn't have water even. You had to go to someone else's house to take a shower. Like I've done, I've this is embarrassing to admit, but I've stolen power before. I know how to turn it back on when they turn you off with the breaker. I know how to turn water back on when they turn it off. Like I grew up that level of poor, like wherever that is in the hierarchy of poverty. I'm at that level. So it could be worse, could be better, it could be a lot better. But I will credit my parents with, they did absolutely everything they could. And it was one of those things where I think they realized that they tried to instill in me to be a leader early on. And they tried to instill in me to go for more, because I think they realized that I had a lot of potential. Because I was always in like, maybe I'm bragging here, but like I was always in like advanced courses, and I was always like basically lapping the teacher, and I was never like nothing was hard for me through all of high school. That's why I got bored and I stopped doing 90% of the stuff and stopped going, because I was like, this is dumb. I don't want to do this. So all of that leads up to undergrad, and I had developed these pretty bad habits, as and so when I got to undergrad, and it was like there was no one to get up and make me go to finite math, it was like, well, I'm not doing that. So, missed a lot of classes, and I got good grades because I passed the tests. That's the thing. I would never do the homework, never go to class, but I'd walk in and pass the test. I have no idea how I'm able to retain things without reading it, or just kind of barely being conscious. But I mean, you can attest that you've seen this happen.
Yeah, I've seen it before. No, I've been to your room. You're like, all right, dude, I need you to teach me finite. All right, when's the test? Next week? No, it's tomorrow. Okay, all right, let's see what we can do. I go through a problem and you missed it. And I'm like, all right, let's do another one. You're like, no, I got it. I'm like, what do you mean you got it? You're like, no, I figured out the formula. I know how to solve this problem. I was like, you didn't even get one right. How are you going to get it right tomorrow? and then it, like, we just did that. I'd give you a question, you'd miss it. Give you another question, you'd miss it. Give you another question, you miss it. And I'm like, dude, are you sure you don't want me to spend more time helping you study? And you're like, no, I got this. I'm fine. And then I remember going to bed that night, and I'm like, he's screwed. I'm like, I'm never going to see him again. This dude failed. He's dropping out. And then 2 weeks later, you're like, guess what I got on my test? And I'm like, I'm thinking F, maybe D. And then you're like, I got a 93. And I'm like, holy shit. Yeah, and like, how'd you do this? And then I find out, talk to you a little bit more. Like, you're just a great test taker. Like, you absorb knowledge and you're able to implement it quickly. Where a lot of people, especially like me, I have to be really repetitive. For me, it's like shooting free throws. I got to shoot 100 a day, make them flashcards.
Yeah.
God, with you,
flashcards used to drive me nuts.
Stacks on stacks, baby. Let's go.
Thousands of these things.
Oh, but I mean, see, and that's how I learn. Like, if I'm going to be repetitive and I have a test on repetition, that's how I have to learn. I'm not the type of person that's going to be like, all right, show me how to do it, and I know how to do every problem after that. So, and I think your ability to think on your feet is pretty incredible too.
That seems strong. I think I'm good at recognizing patterns, I think is one of the things. And my dad is really good. He's always had a hot rod or something to tinker with. I say hot rod. I mean, let's imagine like kind of just an engine block with maybe there's kind of a car there, not really. But he's always had something to play with. Now he's got a couple. We've gotten to a place they're a little bit more fortunate now, and they make a little bit more money. So he's got a couple play cars that he messes with.
Nice.
But to get back to your question, where this all kind of started from. So that drive and that hunger to do things, I think it was always there, but it was never like manifested and at the forefront. Like it was always like, I know I got to do school. I know I got to do my homework, kinda. I know I got to go to class, kinda, right? But like as long as I passed, I didn't really care.
Yeah.
And then I want to say it was like maybe my first senior. I took 5 years in undergrad. Obviously, if you guys have been paying attention to the story, boy didn't do so hot. So I think it was my first senior year. I was on the phone with my mom, and this is kind of tough for me. I'm gonna try and do this without getting too tore up. But we were talking on the phone, and she was saying like, you need to do better. Why are you still getting C's? Why are you doing this? Why are you doing that? And I was like, I know, I'm trying. And there was like a pause on the phone, and then she started crying, and I was like, what's up? Like, is this some bad news? Like, what's going on? And she was like, Shawn, like, you have to be the one to break the cycle. Like, you have to be the one to like break the chains that like are holding all of us down. Like, you are too gifted and too talented to just like piss this off because you don't want to do your homework. Like that's ridiculously small in the grand scheme of things that could be your life if you would just get your shit together. I mean, she maybe didn't say it word for word like that, but and so she started crying, so I started crying. Oh my God, whole thing. And then it was like, okay, cool. Like time to buckle down, time to figure out what I'm doing. So that's when I decided like, okay, cool. I need to go to grad school. Like that was the moment where I sat back and do you remember that blue Blazer that I had? Like shitty. I think it was like a 90 something Chevy Blazer.
Oh yeah.
One door didn't lock. You had to like lock it manually.
I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah. And excuse me. I remember sitting there for like I want to say it was like a couple hours after that phone call. And I was like, what do I want to do with my life? Like, what is the piece that I've always been interested in or at least wanted to learn about that I could turn into, because like the thing is like yeah, I'm good at math. I've never been passionate about math. Like I got a math minor because it was there and because I ended up taking the class because I knew I could get a C and only go to 10 of 30 meetings. You know what I'm saying? Like it was more so like the convenience of, well, I got $2 Tuesday, so this class has to be in the morning on Tuesday because I can't go that late, and I definitely ain't going to class on Wednesday.
Yeah, it's like all right, Tuesday, Thursday classes, like that's all I'm doing.
Literally, and Thursday classes had to end early. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So we stayed in Briscoe, and the weekend started on Thursday and it ended on Tuesday sometimes. So we had to schedule the classes around that strict parameter. But I landed back, and this is a super long-winded question. This is a long-winded answer, I'm sorry. But I landed on the realization that I've always been passionate about making people better. And whether that's a standpoint from fitness, whether it's a standpoint of health, whether it's a standpoint of mental health, whether it's a standpoint of, I know that if someone comes to me and they're willing to put in the work and they're willing to put in 100%, I will give them back 100, 200, 300, 400, whatever I can do to make the situation better because I see that person as totally committed.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So it's like, if you're willing to meet me in the middle and put in the work and everything you can do on your end, like I can help you achieve whatever goal you're wanting to do, right?
Yeah.
As long as it's within my realm. So that's when I doubled down on the applied sports science. Again, at this time, I think I was training with Trey and Matt full time at the time. And I was like, man, like this is about the only thing I've stuck with. Right. So I'm like, there has to be something to it. There has to be a way that we can make this into something more. And I was like, so where are the areas that I'm lacking? I'm like, okay, well, I understand anatomy and I understand structural kinesiology and I understand movement and some biomechanics. Okay, I need more biomechanics. Okay, I need to understand internal physiology. I need to understand applied physiology, biochemistry. How does supplements work? How does this work? And that's what led me into grad school. That's what led me into trying to take the hardest classes I could possibly take. And whenever you make that shift of, okay, here's my drive and my passion, everything's in the back seat, to putting it at the forefront, that's whenever you start to realize like, okay, so now I have a drive, now I have a passion, now I have a focus, and now I have goals. So when you're going after those goals, now you have to start looking at things like wellness and start looking at like, okay, am I going to become lopsided just studying my face off 24/7, making 10,000 flashcards, Austin? Or am I going to, okay, I'm only going to study kind of 1 hour a week and I'm going to go to the gym the rest of the time, Shawn, and we'll see what happens there. But that's when things started to I started looking at life more like balance and wellness and everything else. And ended up finishing that degree, the internship with Dr. Rink and now my job. And then, when you and I sat down and started talking about it, and at this point, I'm very driven at this point. It's not so much, it's not so much motivation, it's discipline, where I know like every day I'm getting up, I'm going to the gym. I know I'm going to have X amount of budget, X amount of dollars. I'm going to save, I'm going to invest, I'm going to do X, Y, and Z. Right. So why am I not happy? And I know you and I had that conversation where it was, okay, so, you make all the money you make, I make all the money I make. I say all the money like we're rich or something. We're really not. But, we make more money than we did in undergrad buying $2
By a
beers.
lot.
So it's like, we're fairly successful in our fields and everything. Why are we not happy? And then you start looking at like, well, do you have a creative outlet? Do you have any, emotional wellness? Do you have a great social life, or is it just going to the bar and drinking your face off? And, do you have something that you're actively trying to learn, or are you just reading papers because you're supposed to for your job?
Mm-hmm.
And so that's where, we sat down that one day and we decided like, man, we should record this, because we were just having these conversations for a while.
Yeah, we were. It was just like kind of going back and forth. And I remember the one time we went to that Mexican restaurant. I forget which one it was. And I was like, Shawn, you're a great talker. Like you'd be great in a podcast. And I remember thinking that and talking to you about it. And I was like, man, I'd love to do something on like fitness or wellness, because I feel like a lot of people could use it. And I think for our case, like we got burnout, had injuries, and came to this, I don't want to call it a hallelujah moment, but it's a hallelujah moment. That's like, all right, there's balance in life. There's a lot more to life than just going to the gym every day. There's a lot more to life than just money. There's a lot more to life than just, success, or however you measure it. And so I remember you like texting me or calling me like a couple weeks later, and you're like, you still want to do that podcast? I'm like, yeah, let's do it.
We started planning and recording on that shitty laptop, my camera that I had, and the audio was horrendous, but we were like, you know what, man, like we're doing it.
Or my green screen in the background. And you're just like, why is this back here? Oh my God, that dude, it was a lot of fun. It's been definitely a pursuit in itself.
Yeah,
I think it's been pretty cool.
Yeah, 100%.
I don't know. I guess what advice would you give to somebody starting on either a fitness pursuit or wellness pursuit? Like something that you wish you knew when you went through this self-improvement process.
Man, there's a lot, because it's easy to get discouraged when you start taking on more and more, and you start trying to even just expand your mind in the way that you're thinking about things, and you start thinking about it more holistically and more, oh, okay, this is this and this is this, and you can see the balance of certain things. But I think the number one thing is like, don't be afraid, right? Like you can always Google stuff. You can literally you can start with Wikipedia about a subject you like. And then if you read some stuff in there, scroll down to the bottom, they've usually got pretty good links to take you to other places outside of that. Grab a couple peer-reviewed articles out of a couple journals, and then now all of a sudden you're 10 times the expert you were even a couple hours ago on random subjects. Like I call it chasing rabbits is what I do. And I always I'll think of something completely stupid in my mind. And I'm like, oh, I wonder what that is. And I'll pull it up and I'll check out some news articles and I'll check out something else. And it gets deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper as I chase it down the rabbit hole. And sometimes you get to the bottom and you lose the rabbit. It's worthless, And sometimes you chase a rabbit and you find a deer and you're like, holy shit, like, look at this. This is all we eating good tonight, Like I figured
we eating good tonight. Dude, that's so true though, because a lot of people just got to start. Like they'll stare at all the different rabbit holes and they're like, I don't know which one to go down, but that one looks good. I can almost see the light from here. All right. Oh, that one looks nice, or that one looks pretty. And then it's like, just go down, like, see what you find. Like you might not find anything, but I think it's important to realize, like, when you're searching, finding out what you are is just as important as finding out what you aren't.
Mm.
And I think that when people have that mentality, curiosity leads them down a bunch of different rabbit holes. And so have fun with it. Enjoy
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
Go down those rabbit holes,
I
man.
really liked what you said about some people sit back and they look at rabbit holes and they say like, oh, I can almost see the light through that one. And it's like, that's probably not the one I would start with, right? Like, don't take the one
It's
where
too
it's
easy.
yeah, it's like, oh, this is a cakewalk. I can do this. I can read about that in 15 minutes and it's fine. It's like another, I guess the number two thing, like besides like, don't be afraid to start. The number two thing would be fall in love with the process. And that sounds so stupid and it's so overused, especially in like the fitness community where it's like, oh man, trust the grind, bro. Everything else will come later. And it's like, okay, pump your brakes, kid. You bench like 135. But no offense to anybody that's been struggling to bench 135. But it's one of those things where it's like, look, it is absolutely true, right? If you fall in love with the process of seeking out knowledge, the process of self-betterment, self-fulfillment, like even if you quote unquote fail the goal, right? You're still going to be further along by even taking that path. So there is no failure on this. There literally is not, because you're going to get better. Even if you got 1% better and you didn't make it to 2, you're still that much better just by trusting the process and going through it.
Dude, that's so true. Because it's like a gain either way.
Yeah.
You either gain material things or you gain lessons. And so either way, like, yeah, you're losing time, effort, and energy, but you're gaining something. So it's like always going to be a cycle. And I think when people like quit halfway through because they don't believe or trust the process or themselves or anything else, then they never see it through. They put half the effort, time, or energy and didn't get anything back. So it's like at least see it through to that point. Like at least go down the rabbit hole, see where it ends, and then come back up and then choose a different one.
You could get to something that you didn't even want to really learn, right? Like you started off thinking it was going to be X, Y, and Z. You got down there and it was A, B, C. And it's like, oh, okay, cool. That's not really as cool as I thought it was going to be, right? That was kind of a failure, right? Only it's not, because now you know where the end of the road is. Like, okay, cool. Like I researched this subject. I thought it was going to be this. It really turned out to not be. Now I know I'm keeping it moving. I'm on to the next thing.
Yeah.
You just roll with it and go right to the next subject. I mean, and that's a very specific example. We could apply that to a lot of different things.
Well, I was gonna say, like, what's something in your life that you feel like you looked as like it was a failure during that time, but now looking back on it, it was either a great learning lesson or it was a success because it pointed you in a different direction?
Man, that's a good one. There's another. My instinct is to say bodybuilding, as much as that's a
wow. That I did not expect that answer.
Yeah.
All right, let's dig into this.
Yeah. So, because think about it, right? Like I never competed. Right. I never got all the way down to like, say the body fat that you did. Right. And I never got the look that I wanted out of it. Right. Like I always wanted to be like Phil Heath, when I was 16 and first saw him and I was 40% body fat and thought like, oh yeah, I could look like that. Like an idiot kid. He doesn't take steroids. He's natural, So
isn't that funny? Like the people that we view as like gods, we just disregard any morally shady kind of things that they might do. That's a totally different topic. We can go down that a little bit, but
definitely touch on that later.
Yeah.
But no, I think what I got out of bodybuilding was 2 herniated discs, a completely deteriorated disc in my L5S1, which is now bone on bone, which hurts every single day of my life. My elbows are both completely inflamed. My right knee is completely inflamed. My right hip has tendinosis. My neck is completely calcified. I can't really turn all that far. And I got a lot of injuries and I put in a lot of work and I mean, now, obviously I'm a bigger guy. So obviously I'm not as lean as I need to be, but I think calling that a failure is not accurate, because what I also got from bodybuilding was discipline. And what I got from bodybuilding was friendships. And I got this entire business never would have happened if we didn't lift and spend the time together that we had. I never would have been friends with Trey. I never would have been friends with Matt or David or Joey or any of those guys. And I think a lot of my leadership qualities that I have, I'm the oldest of 3 boys and all that, sure. But, when it came to lifting and being in the gym, everyone looked to me. And it was like, oh, okay, yeah, Shawn knows, he can figure it out. He can write a workout. He can, if you lift with Shawn, he's going to kick your ass. Like, that's just all there is to it, and it was one of those things where I was like, I learned early on, it was like, look, anyone can make anyone tired. Can you make them better? And so I was like, oh shit, now I really have to know this stuff. And if someone's going to ask me about X, Y, and Z, I got to have an answer for them. And so it's like all of that drive and all of that, whatever you want to call it, that came out of that never would have happened if I hadn't first picked up a barbell when I was 16. Yeah. So despite the fact that, I failed and I didn't become Mr. Olympia, it wasn't a failure.
No. And in some ways, I feel like it gives us a sense of purpose. Because, bodybuilding wasn't, your calling or my calling, but you found a coach and a teacher in that and a leader in that. And it might not be how you envisioned it to show up, but it showed up in a different way that is much more powerful and impacting than you could have ever imagined, which is pretty cool.
Right. Because, as much as like, I think the biggest thing about bodybuilding and really fitness and committing to that type of thing is you will learn more about yourself than you ever thought possible.
That's true.
Because all those hours doing cardio and all those hours in the gym lifting, and, not only are you going to have to learn about the subject itself, but you're going to have to learn about yourself and like what hurts, what fits your movement profile biomechanically, what fits for stimulating the muscles for you. Are you more of this kind of person, more of this kind of person? Did you do the proper developmental phases to get there? Or did you jump right to an advanced lifting routine, which a lot of people do? And it's like, if you do that, sometimes you got to kind of go back to the drawing board. And I know for me personally, I've gone back to the drawing board a few times and just been like, look, I'm super strong. Well, I say super strong. Like, I was okay.
I'd say you're pretty strong.
I'm pretty
I've seen
strong,
you
but
what did you do? You leg press like over 1,000 pounds. You're going to correct me like 1,200 or 1,500 or some shit.
More than that. Yeah.
But it was a lot.
So I actually, one of my claim to fames, and Trey was there as we were leg pressing. Oh my God. I want to say it was like 15 or 20 plates a side. It was like probably 1,200 pounds, something like that. And we were doing sets of 100 with that much weight, where we would just start and then just go, okay, do as many as you possibly can. And then we'll drop it and take one plate off. And then you're going to keep going. So like, you take 90 pounds off of 12 or 1,300. Like, obviously you didn't feel that at all.
No.
And I was actually, I think it was like the fourth set. I think we did 20, 50, 50, 100. So I think it was the fourth set. So we were doing stupid work at the time. But granted, this is probably the strongest I've ever been in my entire life. Mm-hmm. And I think it was like my third or fourth drop, I racked it. And whenever I was holding the handles and I was bracing, and I turned my head one way or the other, I can't remember where I turned, but my trapezius actually tore the connective tissue on the back of my skull.
Oh my God.
And I completely blacked out in my left eye. Everything turned green. Couldn't see anything. And I had to roll out of the machine. But the thing that's cool about this story is that the environment that, I don't want to take all the credit and say I created, obviously we built it together, but the environment that I created, quote unquote, was that Trey smacked the shit out of me and was like, no, you have to keep going. Like, this is not like, you are not getting out of this machine. I'm like, no, Trey, I'm hurt. Like, he's like, no, keep going. I don't care that your legs hurt. I'm like, it's not my legs. It's like, I'm hurt.
Like, I can't see.
The environment that we created was one of like, there is no ability to stop, or like Trey and Matt stepped on my neck and I had to level up because of them, and they leveled up because of me. It was we pushed each other to new heights, and it was like that was the environment we were in, was that it was literally like we didn't even know if one of us was hurt. That's how far shifted into the fitness spectrum we were. So we talk about wellness and balance, like that was out the window at that point.
Oh yeah. I think it's good though, because it's like not to that extreme, but there's a level of accountability too. Because if you surround yourself with people like that are striving towards a similar goal, you're all going to get there. Now, how? That's different. And I think that's where you bring in wellness, and you're like, you want to talk about like how we're going to get there. We're not cutting corners or anything like that. But I guess like to talk about that, like how has your wellness journey changed, or was there like a pivotal moment? Was that bodybuilding, or was there a certain point where you reflected inward and is like, I can't keep doing this. I have to change what I'm doing.
Yeah. So in terms of, and if you guys listen to, I don't know if the order is going to come out where it was last week's episode, but if you listen to the episode, the season 2 intro, I talked about how I actually still don't feel like I have wellness in fitness and in lifting in the gym, because I still walk in the gym doors and I still go to that same place. But in terms of everything else that goes with it, because at that time in my life, and I say we were really shifted towards fitness, and it wasn't just because of the crazy sessions in the gym. I think you can have intensity and you can have, you know, a great team around you, and you can take it to the wall every single day that you lift and still have wellness in your life, you know, because the gym is only an hour or two of your day. You know, I could probably do chest in like 40 minutes these days. You know, it's a really well-oiled machine with me and my training partner that I have now, John. But it was that everything else in our lives went with that. Like there were days that Matt would sleep on my couch so that he could wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning and kick me to wake me up. And then we would go run the stairs in Briscoe, or we would go run outside, or, you know, it was like, we did nothing if we had to get another meal in. If it was like, we only had 45 minutes to eat and it's like, oh yeah, cool, we're going to go over here and talk to these people. We're like, no, like we have to eat in 45 minutes. Like we're going to sit here so that we can cook and eat at exactly 7 o'clock. Cause then we got to go to bed. Cause then we got to get up. Like, it was very, my entire day was shifted towards, when am I going to the gym? How much am I going to have eaten by the time I get to the gym so that I can be as strong as I possibly can? And it's like, when I realized that like my life can't just revolve around the gym, and I got to grad school and I went to the gym less and less and less. And, you know, it actually shifted the other way for a little bit, and it became all about school and work. And like I said, I had 4 jobs at the time. So you're obviously not spending hours and hours in the gym. And I think I only went a couple days a week. I mean, you'd probably say the same thing when you were doing your master's in Kelly. I mean,
Dude. I remember
never went to the gym together.
No, I didn't go to the gym at all. I remember I didn't work out for a semester.
Yeah.
And it was like
we started
6 months
going
later.
on Saturdays together. Remember?
Yeah, we did. Those were some pretty good chest workouts.
Lifting during the week at all. Like, why don't we get together and do one workout a week?
Yeah. And still, that was hard to commit to.
Yeah.
Like with how much we were doing for grad school.
Yeah. It was a crazy time, man. But right around that point, you know, and then getting out of grad school and, you know, getting the job that I have now. And now, luckily, I'm in a place where the balance is coming back, and the wellness is there in most of the areas, not all of them. I mean, I'll be the first one to admit it. I'm pursuing it myself. But it's whenever you make the realization that like other areas in your life are lacking because they're trying to hold up this other area. That's whenever you realize like, okay, so I don't have balance in this, you know, and not everyone's going to have an equal amount in each area. I'll tell you that much for sure. But it's like, you also can't have everything going into one area and nothing going into another, you know?
Yeah. And at least put awareness on it too. I think that's a big thing. Like you might not put as much energy or effort into a particular area, but putting awareness and knowing that it's a shortcoming is huge. Because then like for me, when I was in debt and like trying to pay that off, it's like, okay, my financial wellness is not well. It's time to put some awareness on that. It's time to like look at things where I can cut costs and make some decisions. So yeah, I think that's really powerful. I do want to bring up a picture, if you don't mind, of you.
Oh, Lord.
I'm going to share the screen real quick. See if this works on our podcast. Can you see
that's when I got hurt.
Yeah. Trey sent this in.
Why does he still have that?
Trey's got every picture ever.
Dude.
Trey's gonna have blackmail on us
For years, man, for years.
till we die.
Yeah, so that was my current state after I think we it was like our 9th thing. Like that was the last thing we were doing before we left. And that right there is the exact face I was having. Face I was making after I got hurt. Yeah, that right there.
Right there, yeah.
That's utter pain face. God, I was gorgeous right there. You guys see that?
Post aneurysm face.
Yeah,
Trey.
yeah, pretty much. Yeah. It felt like an aneurysm, I'll tell you that much.
Yeah, you look like you look like half happy, half in disgust. Like, yeah, I did it, but I didn't like it.
I was mad at the world. So like right there in that picture, I still can't see out of my left eye.
Yeah, your left eye looks a little limp.
Yeah, so like we walked into, so that's in the cardio room because we didn't finish the workout right there when I got hurt. We still did cardio afterward. Well, they did. I actually laid on the floor.
Yeah, you did cardio on your head.
Yeah, if you if you've ever been to the Hyper, or it's not called the Hyper now, but there's basically there's the or at the time it might be different now, but the leg room was when you walked down the stairs, it was all the way to the left, and the cardio room was all the way to the right through the rest of the gym. And so we like hobbled into the cardio room, and I just like sat down. I was like, guys, you got it. I can't. Like, I'm done. I'll fall over because I still couldn't really see.
Yeah, you look good too.
Yeah, I was like, whew. I don't even want to know. I was probably like 230, 240 right there.
Using teeth whitening? Your teeth look so white.
Yeah, not anymore. little vein. If you guys noticed the faux hawk and the diamond earrings.
I like it. Can we bring this back for one podcast?
I don't know that I'm like capable at this point.
Oh, okay.
I tried to grow my hair back out over the quarantine, and it did not go well.
It did not. What did it look like?
It grows on the sides. That's it.
It's kind of like
nothing
a faux
here.
hawk.
It's like a reverse mohawk. Like if this is a faux hawk, it's like whatever this is. Maybe I'll just like faux hawk the sides straight out, like Krusty the Crab or Krusty the Clown on Simpsons.
Oh yeah, from the Simpsons, right?
Yeah.
All right, maybe don't bring that back.
Yeah.
All right, we do have a question from Jared though.
Okay.
Quick. Let me kick that off. All right, he wants to hear more of your wellness journey that touched you on last week's podcast about how your view on fitness has changed to be wellness oriented and how that has positively benefited you.
Okay. So I think right now I'm currently just sort of in the I'm now aware of it phase. So like before I thought, okay, cool. I'm involved with this wellness company, where we're trying to build this thing, trying to spread positivity, trying to spread, motivation, inspiration, information. So I'm on point with this. And then I started thinking about this season and what we wanted to talk about. I've told you guys this before, and I was like, okay, cool. I'm gonna write out a little bit of notes and everything else. So I kind of like just wrap my mind around it. I'm not a person that can read from a teleprompter. I'm very much a bullet point kind of guy. Like I'll write down a few sentences and then I'm off to the races.
Yeah, just let it ride.
As evident by how much I freaking ramble. But when I was writing all the pre-writings for this season, I was like, I kept coming back to last week's episode, and I was like, why is this so freaking hard? Like I don't understand why I don't know what to write here. Like we've been preaching this for all of season 1, now we're into season 2. Like this should be a well-oiled machine, and it just wasn't. And so I started to think about it, and I was actually in the gym like thinking out loud, and I was like, man, like it's because I don't have it, right? Like I don't have wellness. Like I walk in the door and I go right back into that same space of like I'm not conscious of my injuries. I'm not conscious of like, I should do this because it's good for my body. It's good for my health. It's entirely just me versus me, and trying to be the person I was that you guys just saw laying on the floor, which like, why would you, why would you put that up on a pedestal? Right. Like I couldn't see out of my eye. And when I walked through the gym,
dude,
that guy's my hero. Right. Like,
you hit a good point. It's kind of like you get to the end of the rabbit hole with something.
Yeah.
And you won't give up. Like at some point there's like I gotta like a revert back.
Mm-hmm.
And just as much as it is important to start as it is to finish and complete.
Yes. Yes.
I
And
don't
so
know.
I think I've made the realization that, I don't need to train like I'm trying to be Phil Heath anymore. I need to train
Mhm.
instinctively. And the thing is, like, I don't know any other way to train. And I don't think you should. Let me go back and let me rephrase. For the advanced lifter, they know what I'm talking about, but for the beginner, maybe they don't understand what I'm saying. I'm not going to change the way that I'm training, right? So like the way I program, the way
Yeah.
I build out stuff, and the way I do X, Y, and Z, right? So like this progresses to this. This is an undulating periodization towards this. This is a progressive overload movement towards this. Like that will all stay the same because that's just the proper way to develop muscles and to develop strength, right? So I'm still going to do all those things. It's just I'm not going to. I call it the other side or the dark place or the abyss or whatever you want to call it, whatever coin you want to term it, whatever term you want to coin. I don't have to go to that place to psych myself up to hit these big lifts, and it's going to throw this dark cloud over me for the whole day. Because I noticed leaving the gym after my biggest lifts, my strongest days, like I'm almost a little off. I'm like a raw nerve the rest of the
Mhm.
day because I've had to take myself to thinking about, those nights that we didn't have power, or, the crazy stuff that's happened in my family that I'll cover on other podcasts and stuff like that, I'm sure at some point, or, the biggest fights that I've had with my wife, or, like, and I said this on last week's episode, when I was younger, the guy that I learned a lot of lifting stuff from would always say, like, you got to go to the place where, it's, Kai Green said, where doesn't matter. I'll bleep that out. But it's the place where how did he coin it? Oh, he said, it's like a little kid that's just been told mommy and daddy don't love each other anymore. Like that's the place you have to go to be willing to do whatever it takes to lift that weight. Right. And
Mhm.
it's like, I did that for 15 years. Right. And I've actually like 16 is what we're coming up on. And I fed my body all this negativity, all this like just harmful, like toxic stuff, like to like basically destroying my mental health, all in the name of 5 more pounds on my bench press. And it's like that is not wellness, that is not balance, that is not positivity, that is not spreading the wealth and doing that. And so I think the realization that I was still letting my mind eat itself, and the realization I was still feeding my body negative energy every time I went to the gym has really opened up my eyes towards the other areas of my life. And I'm like, well, that's why every time I walk in the door at work, I'm mad about something.
Mhm.
And like I hit my desk and I'm just like trying to kill it and just trying to like knock everything out. And I'm just like I'm like aggressively working on paperwork at my desk. I got to work right after the gym. And it's like now that I've made this realization, and now that I'm like, it's still hard sometimes because I still touch the bar sometimes, and I still go to that place without even realizing it because it's, again, it's been years. But now that I'm more conscious of it, now I'm realizing like, okay, maybe I don't hit my weight goal for that day, right? It's not the end of the world. It's still not a failure. I still did all the work sets to get there. I still broke a sweat, still burned calories, still a real positive day hanging out with my training partner as a good friend of mine. There was still everything good still happened from that session, and missing that one top lift is not going to throw a dark cloud over me for the rest of the day. I'm not going to lash out and snap it and yell at Isaac at work or something like that
Oh
because
yeah.
I missed a squat. It's like it's ridiculous. I mean, I say it's ridiculous. It's something that I still struggle with, so it's obviously not ridiculous. But
It's tough though. It's tough to put
it's
that
tough.
like it's tough to put that like mindset there, because otherwise now the energy that you created in the gym follows you everywhere. It's going to follow you to your work, to your wife, to your friends, to your family, to your dogs, to, I don't know, Kilroy's, basically anywhere. So that makes it tough, and I think like being able to step out of the gym when you're done, even if you didn't hit a lift, and even if you are upset, to be like, that's it, that's the day. Like there's no, it's like, all right, I'm putting that away. I can come back to it tomorrow and I can do better tomorrow, but today is done, and I'm not going
Right.
to trade like a perfect day for a perfect life. Like I'd much rather have a perfect life and have bad days in between.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think, if you're listening to this podcast, or maybe if you tune in for the first time, but if you've listened to a couple of these, obviously you're in a position where you're trying to think a little bit bigger, and you're trying to expand your mind, and you're trying to learn some things about yourself. And if you're here for the first time, maybe you're not there yet. Maybe you're just tuning in randomly because you saw, like, who's that fat guy over there talking, but self-reflection and self-acknowledgement and self-realization are all so powerful. And sometimes, like, even someone who fancies himself as an expert in a lot of different fields can still not have the realization until they actually sit down and think about it, like, why is X, Y, and Z happening? And then it's like, oh, that's why.
Mm-hmm. So I was actually going to ask, like, what tips would you give for self-reflection? Because I think that's huge, especially for wellness.
It's tough, and I think I'll probably cover this a little bit more on Off the Pursuit. Tune in to the other YouTube channel. Shameless plug. But no, I'm a whiskey and cigar guy. Always kind of have been. So when I have those moments to myself to really kind of deep think, and it's not the chemicals that make it easier. It's just it's a period of reflection, but it doesn't always have to be by yourself. Maybe if you've got a partner that you're with, or you have a group of really good friends or anything, and you guys are all just kind of chatting and everything else. But I think the biggest thing is to, number one, allow yourself to think a little bit bigger, and number two, be honest. Because I know for the longest time I was a big fan of the have a war mask and put your war mask on when you leave the house, and don't let anyone see the real you, and fake it till you make it, and just literally go out and what are all the cool fitness quotes, eat people's faces off and all that stuff, and blah, blah, blah. But it's like, in reality, like, I'm hiding the real me from the world.
Yeah.
And it's like, now I don't have to do that anymore, because now I've kind of gotten in touch with my, you can call it your star player, or whoever, whatever you want to call it, the guy you see in the mirror every day, or girl, or whatever. Getting in touch with yourself, being honest with yourself, and being able to admit that maybe there is a problem, or maybe you don't want to call it a problem. Maybe you want to say there's an area of improvement. Or maybe you want to say, like, I'm doing too much in this area. I need to put a little bit more emphasis on the other areas, because I'm great in this area. I need to be great in the other areas. If you're a little more, call it narcissistic or whatever you want to call it. But there's a ton of different ways that you can frame it too. I think framing is big. Mm-hmm. It's like, you have to kind of find a way that you're comfortable with talking basically to yourself and then capitalize on it.
Yeah. And that's a good point. Because talking to yourself can be a journal. It could be literally talking to yourself. Especially in the shower. I always feel like that's a good one.
We don't
or it could be calling a friend. And just getting it out there. Somebody that just listens, and they don't provide a lot of feedback, so you're just working things out when you put it out there.
Yeah. And I mean, honestly, like, if you don't got, this is going to sound corny and cliched, but if you feel like you've not got someone that will listen and everything else, feel free to reach out to us. We're there to help too.
Yeah, no, for sure. Because it's big. Like, if you don't feel like you have a community or a crutch, it's hard to go through that. And I don't know. I'm sure you've been through a phase like that. I know I have, where you feel like you don't have anybody.
Oh yeah.
And you're just kind of on an island, but I think it's a self-imposed island a lot of times.
Yeah. I've definitely been guilty of pushing a lot of people away in the name of X, Y, and Z, because I think that's the way you have to do it sometimes. And it's really not. And I've done it both ways. I would highly recommend if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go with friends.
Yeah, it's true. Well, and I feel like a lot of times it's we put like a need, if that makes sense, like need versus want. Like, a want is a desire to have something or be something or do something, A need is an essential to survive. And I think it's dangerous when we start saying, I need to be fit rather than I want to be fit.
Yeah.
Because then we overexert ourselves. We start to create this chaos in our head or, in our reality, because we're pushing everything away in the pursuit to need something rather than to want it. And I think that's where that can get dangerous, but that's a little off topic.
Hey, I'm here for it. I'm here for it. This is it's a journey of self-reflection, even us sitting here and chatting about me and who I am. So I think me better than most people outside of maybe my wife and my family. So it's for us, it's we're kind of regurgitating other stories, but we have other moments of clarity. Like in a million years, I don't think you would have thought I would have said bodybuilding was a failure. So
no, exactly. And I think that's the hard part too, is like, I think we get like used to the idea of a person. We're like, I know Shawn. I know exactly who he is. I don't have any questions. And then when you still ask questions and are curious about the other person or people that you're around, you're like, wow, I never would have expected that person to say that in a million years.
Yeah.
I guess like that's why I'm excited for what we're doing too, because I feel like we're trying to take the really good things about what we built for fitness: community, accountability, appreciation, support, acceptance, curiosity, all those things. And I think it's great. And we're taking that and we're saying, hey, we don't need to kill ourselves or overindulge in a particular area. And how can we put balance on that and win and have fulfillment in all areas of life, rather than being like, okay, I'm jacked and I'm broke, or I don't have a job, but I have a girlfriend, and I have like great friends, and I have like a creative outlet that I'm really loving, but I don't have a job for it. So it's like, I think it's nice because we're saying like, how can we expand into every area, which is pretty cool.
Yeah. And it's the fitness can be a real monster, in terms of pulling you out of those other areas. Like I'm, we've been talking about acceptance here so I'm just kind of on the brain, but I know whenever I was like quote unquote jacked, we'll use that term loosely because we'll be honest, but whenever I was quote unquote jacked, I know I absolutely hated all the frat bros that came down to the gym to lift.
Oh yeah.
Every person that would come in and not go hard and just take up space. Every person who spring breakers, New Year's resolutioners, I hated them all. Get out of my gym is what I would always say. Like, I don't know why you're here taking up space. Like, move. You're only using the 20-pound dumbbells, and it's like, why does any of that matter? Like, they're there to get better. You have concrete evidence that they are trying to make themselves better. How dare you make fun of those people or try to get on to them about X, Y, and Z? Like, oh yeah, nice job. You're not going to lose that weight. I hope you know. Ha. And it's like, that makes you a douche. I hope you know.
Yeah.
Like, it's not just that, fitness can take your money. Fitness can take your time. Fitness can take, your time away from other things. Like, I'm not going to barbell row 455 for 10 and then turn around and like write a poem, I'm not a psychopath, Austin. It's that's right under the bus. I'm sorry.
It was a good poem. Okay.
He had a couple gems.
Just need a couple heartbreaks.
Just put them out there for the world.
Yeah.
We'll put them on social media.
I'm sure Trey's got them somewhere.
Oh, positive. If anybody got the screenshots, it's Trey. All right.
Yeah.
Everybody, how everybody's got that one like homeboy or homegirl or again, whatever, that has got like concrete evidence on absolutely every person of the gang. Ours is Trey.
Trey, baby.
I make fun of him to the ends of the earth, but if like push came to shove, I'd be like, hey, I got this dude's back. Why do you got his back? Because I'm never running for office as long as he's alive.
As long as his iCloud still exists.
Right, we're all screwed.
That's too funny. All right, well, let's end with one question.
Bring it on.
So what do you really want to get out of this company and this pursuit of like really spreading awareness about wellness?
I think it comes down to actually my boss is, again, Dr. Larry Rink. And one of his quotes and sayings is, number one, if it's worth doing, it's worth being the best in the friggin' world at. And number two is, if you're in a room and you know more than other people about a subject, not only should you speak, but you have a duty to speak.
Mm.
And so, in that vein of, trying to get better, trying to be the best in the world, constantly striving to be X, Y, and Z when it comes to things, and, having a fair bit of experience about a lot of this stuff. I've made a lot of mistakes. I've had a lot of wins. I've trained absolutely every type of fitness that you can do, from powerlifting to CrossFit to bodybuilding to, just general training for athletics to, I mean, yeah, I've never done race walking and I don't swim that well, but like, you get the gist of what I'm saying. I kind of know my way around this world, and I've started looking at things holistically, and I've started expanding my mind with drinking with thinking about um, X, Y, and Z and all these other areas. And I realized like between the two of us, and, now we've expanded to like 6 of us, we have a lot of people who are really worth their weight in gold when it comes to all these different areas of wellness and all these facets of things that go into that broad stroke term of wellness. And so I think my goal is really, if one person even gets a lot out of this, and the world becomes a little bit better place because that one person is in a better position because of the information that we put out. And maybe one person gets inspired, maybe one person gets informed, maybe one person gets motivated,
Mm.
or maybe it's 10,000 of each, maybe it's 100,000 of each, a million of each. And we just are able to spread positivity, acceptance, motivation, inspiration, information, and all the other good things that make up this company. I think it could never be a bad thing.
It's
And so I
true.
think that's why I'm so passionate about helping people. And it started small with Trey Radcliffe and Matt Szymanski. And, you could go all the way back to being 16 in my cousin's garage, or you could go all the way to now at almost 30 training with John. In every stage and every step of my life, I have tried to help people in any way that I can. And again, it goes back to that, the conversation I had with my mom, where we were both crying, and what do I really want to do with my life? And what do I want my legacy to be? And what am I good at? And so
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to help the world through finance, right? But you can. I'm not going to help the world through creativity, but Lauren can. I can maybe help the world through fitness. I can maybe help the world through, you know, call it social wellness, because again, I'm a people person. And, again, there's the intellectual wellness and all the other stuff that I'm good at. If I can find other people to bring onto the team who are good in the areas that I'm not, and we can build out a really progressive team,
Mm-hmm.
we can change the world. And we're
Yeah.
not looking to do it by, being sneaky and shady, and we're going to sell all these supplements and do X, Y, and Z and buy our 10-week program for $5,000 right now before we tell you one thing. And it's like, no, like, we're here to tell you, like, look, we have messed up X, Y, and Z. And here is this incredibly free podcast where you can get all the information and everything else that you could possibly need. And I think that's why I'm so passionate about this, is because, again, we have a duty to speak.
Yeah, that's true. And it's like we're building the community a little bit at a time.
Yeah.
And hopefully it becomes infectious.
Yeah.
We
I
spread the
think there's
wellness.
enough toxicity and enough people bringing people down and being a barrel of crabs. And I think, if we can start being a voice of positivity and a voice of uplifting people. And, I've learned in my life that, there are some people that are even people that are close to you, even friends, even family members, who want you to do well, but not as well as them. And I am not one of those people. Like, if you can
Yeah.
make $1 billion tomorrow and I'm still broke worrying about paying my light bill, awesome, dude. How can I help you get to 2?
Yeah.
how can we do more? How can we do more? How can I help you? How can we do this? That's just kind of me. And I'm not trying to preach or anything, but that's just how I feel. I think we should be uplifting. We should not be holding people back.
Yeah. Bring people up, create that possibility rather than shutting off, opportunities and bringing people down. I like that.
Absolutely.
Well, Shawn, I appreciate this.
Of
Now
course.
we gotta do this round 2.
Hey, bring it on. You got to do a round 2 as well then. Round 2 too?
All right. 2 for 2. Let's do it. All right. Signing off.
See you guys next time.